no grip available.
Oh yes indeed, the F1, the Russian F1 at Sochi, where the Olympics was, the tracks around the streets there, and of course President Putin and Eccleston loved the track, the drivers loved the tracks, it's a fast track. Joining us now, Tim Hauraney. I tell you what, they might have found something here.
Yeah, I think they did. Russia hasn't hosted a Grand Prix in about 100 years, guys. So, so far the race is pretty exciting over on TSN. You can tune in right now. It's going on. Hamilton's out in the lead still. But, yeah, what a great race so far. It's been a good weekend all around.
It has indeed. I mean, the loss of the Leafs, the loss of TFC, and now we've got a little bit more excitement with F1. But you say 100 years, it hasn't been there. I can tell you, folks. Yeah. You know why? Because there was no backhanders.
I don't know if that's the real reason, but sure.
But I'm sure there was some favoritism, like the FIFA with their World Cup coming up in Russia, and not FIFA indeed, but it's the FIA organization of F1. But I'm being serious now. No, it's the weather looks good. You just saw an incident there.
Yeah, right off the start. Rosberg trying to be aggressive going around Hamilton. He's already lost the championship lead a few races ago, so he's got to try and make it up somehow, and just trying to be aggressive and do what Hamilton does, because that's how Hamilton's kind of jumped back into the lead of the championship. He's just been aggressive, and he's went out and he's done things that most drivers don't usually do. Usually you try and be conservative once you have a lead in the championship, and that's kind of what Rosberg has done, but he went on the defensive, and Hamilton's really capitalized on it over the last 3 to 4 races. So he's done a great job of just being very aggressive.
And the drivers going into this race were concerned about safety and made their voices known, especially after the Japanese Grand Prix. So I tell you what, I don't blame them, actually. I think that they felt that they were taken for granted and they just wanted some respect.
Well, the thing with that is you look at it that they haven't had something extremely serious since Ayrton Senna in 1994 when he passed away at Imola. And if you look at how many years they've gone by without a serious incident, that just shows you the level of safety that's in Formula One now and how seriously they take it and the FIA takes it. They're always looking for ways to improve safety, and this is an unfortunate thing that happened last weekend at the Japanese Grand Prix. But they will learn something from it. They've done the investigation. It's all finished. And they're going to start implementing new types of things like skirts for the recovery vehicles. So if a driver does hit them, they have somewhere to bounce off to instead of going straight under like Jules Bianchi did. Also, other things that they're starting to look at is having like a virtual safety car. So when there's double waved yellow flags, they might have a system that's going to come into place where they can automatically slow the cars down going through that section by just hitting like a button saying every car's sensor that comes through this zone automatically slows down to 60 miles an hour or whatever.
In the pits?
Yeah, they have a
It's a control button
exactly.
system, isn't it?
But the driver has to operate that. The driver needs to implement that safety mechanism when coming into pit lane. This would be different because they're competitors, and they haven't released how fast Jules was going during his incident, but you can assume he was going faster than others to try and close the gap down. And some drivers were lifting, and some drivers weren't lifting through that section. As a racing driver myself, usually when I see a yellow flag, I slow a bit, but not totally.
The conditions were terrible,
and the conditions were also, they weren't good at all. But that being said, when you see double waved yellows, you have to take your foot off the gas. You've got to slow down because it's something serious. There are people out on the track working on trying to remove a car that's been stranded, so you have to take that into consideration, and this is something that's going to make them take that into consideration. The drivers are for it, which is good. Like they're all for safety, and they're always trying to make things safer for themselves.
We've got to congratulate you, Tim.
Oh yeah,
You got something right. You predicted
that's debatable.
predicted Hinchcliffe would leave Andretti team, and man, it was amazing. You were spot on.
well, I got my
Tim get
sources. I got my sources.
You got that story?
Yeah.
How much you pay for it?
Nothing. I just I know my guys. I just got to pat myself
what a
on the
guy.
back. I got nobody else patting me on the back.
I got to tell you, folks, he's a good-looking guy. He should be in
I
some
don't
of
know
these
about that.
magazines, eh? He's got the demure for it, and I'm surprised. Well, you know what? One day I'm going to make a prediction with Lindsay. I bet we'll see you on TSN in front of camera.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Might
I
break-
won't watch it, but
Yeah.
we'll see you.
This right here might break the line.
Laying on the track after he had just smashed his vehicle. But talking about smashes and, and the heavyweight champion of the world, listen to this clip from NASCAR.
All right.
For some reason, after the race, the 11 stopped in front of me and tried to pick a fight, and I don't know what that was all about. And he swung and hit at my car, so I figured if we're going to play car wars and are yelling after the race, I'll join too. So, those guys can dish it out, but they can't take it, and I gave it back to him, and now they want to fight.
He just ran right into us and knocked us up the racetrack, and then we got to pit lane, and he just plowed into the 14 and the 20. His belts were off, and he ran into him. He was just out of control.
Yeah, out of control, and of course that was NASCAR last night, the big fight. It reminds me of F1 in the early days. Pete and I were talking about that, where they'd throw their helmets, they'd chase the driver to the pits and try to drop him. I mean, it was all go.
Well, it's another one of those things. You have with racing is there's so much aggression, there's so much testosterone going on. It's not like other sports where you have time to rest. It's go 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 all the time. So your adrenaline and testosterone levels are through the roof, right? Because you're just trying so hard to win and to place well, and for these guys stay in the chase for the Sprint Cup. Like Kevin Harvick came through and won it. They call him the closer for a reason, and that's what he did. He led about 162 laps last night to close this one out. But going back to the scuffle there between Keselowski and those guys, I don't know.
But you never find the fans doing this. They take the baseball hat off and throw it down, kick their glass of beer over. You don't see that.
No,
Not now.
Well, not now, anyways.
In the old days, you did.
Yeah, for sure. But not now. Yeah, it's totally different up in the grandstands, but down on the racetrack, like these guys are fighting for every inch of track. You look at Jeff Gordon, and he's doing everything he can to stay in the fight for the chase. And he's had a good finish last night, which he needed because the door's closing, and it's closing for guys like Jimmy Johnson. Dale Earnhardt just made it through last night, so it's nip and tuck for these guys. They've got to do whatever they can to try and get through to the eliminator round. And even then, it's going to be tough for them. Like it's really exciting.
What happens about this fight, as Lindsay brought up? What happens?
It's one of those things. Like you've got to.
Do they get fined?
Well, that's one of those things that you're going to have to start looking at for NASCAR. Like, remember how we went back to the Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward Jr. thing, and I said that there's going to be new penalties issued for drivers getting out of their cars and walking on a live racetrack. This is going to have to be something else here because what happened is cars hitting each other in pit lane, and there's people walking around.
Yeah, dangerous.
Like these guys are just going to have to start, using their heads a little bit more and saving it for the garage area. Like I said, when it came down to Stewart and Kevin Ward, you leave that for the garage area. That's where it's for. Like, that's where you can talk to somebody when you're out of like.
Is this not good for sponsors?
No, I don't think if I was a sponsor,
it's not good for the race.
No, not at all. If I was a sponsor, me personally, and I had XYZ company on the side of a car, I would not want my driver going and confronting another driver on live television. It just does not look good for my brand. So, yeah, no, it's not very good.
I'm very surprised you've said that.
Yeah,
because that's very honest.
Yeah, but yeah, that's one of those things. I'm an honest guy, right? I got one more thing here.
He's saying you're not honest.
No, I didn't. I did not say it that way.
So did you see the Bathurst 1000 was on yesterday?
Yes, yeah, the
Okay.
great Bathurst 1000. Yeah, my brother's up there watching it, so
you had,
not now, but he was, and And of course, the Bathurst 500 and
Yeah, so that 1,000 was on yesterday, and I guess it's Chaz. I'm not sure. Hopefully, I pronounced this right. Mostert and Paul Morris. They won the V8 Supercars Bathurst 1000 yesterday.
Kiwis are tuning out a few good, and Aussies, a few good drivers.
See, you guys are good for something. All right.
That's about it.
Holy
I'm just kidding.
That's a low punch.
Yeah, I felt that.
Are you covering boxing now?
Brought tears to my eyes.
But
anyway, anyone impressing you in NASCAR that, like Keselowski or
Keselowski for sure.
Keselowski,
He's really come. I think he's really come alive over the last 4 to 5 races. Jimmy Johnson has really slid off, which is surprising because he's one of those guys who's just so consistent. He's always going to be there, and he's able to win a championship. And Jeff Gordon, like I said, and Dale Earnhardt are just hanging on.
Okay, and the Russian Grand Prix, Hamilton to win.
It looks like it so far, not unless Valtteri Bottas can kind of close this 2-second gap that he's got, which I believe he can. So it should be an exciting finish the last 15 laps. So you should tune in.
Rightio.
Well, it's lap 23, so the conditions look really, really good.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous there.
Yeah.
That track looks awesome.
Yeah, because they didn't know what they were going to do with the Olympic Village there and all that. Now I think they've found it.
Exactly, and it's the perfect thing for it. To be honest with you guys, the sold-out crowd is over 250,000 people there.
Man, amazing. That's what Manchester United get, don't they?
That's just in the changing room. Never mind the seats.
Anyway, thanks, Tim, for being on the program and all the insults that you've handed out.
Hey, I had to get one out. I had to. But thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, thanks, Tim. And of course, coming up, don't forget, folks, got Joe Boynton Dent will be going down under to find out what's been happening all there. Bit of cricket and.
Is that going to be a punch to this story?
No.
Okay. According to the producer, I've got a punch to this story.
Yeah, I see that, but it's just any old. It's just any old Joe. Anyway,
oh, really?
Yeah. You're listening to the International Sports Report on TSN Radio Toronto. Joe Boynton Dent coming up.
Go to ISR1050.com for more scores and stories. That's ISR1050.com.